Welcome, and thanks so much for listening in today to learn more about how to transform the lives of struggling readers with Learning Ally Solutions. I'm Terry Nolan, the National Director of Educator Engagement at Learning Ally, and I'll be sharing those solutions with you today. Let's start by thinking about our struggling readers and ask yourself this question. What are the problems you and your students face when students are not able to read grade level material? Think about that for a few seconds. You may have started to think about those students that don't raise their hand and participate in class. They're not performing well on those academic assessments and those tests. You might be seeing some behavioral problems as well. All of these things start to arise when students don't feel like that they are competent in the classroom. We need to get these students to that grade level material to keep them on pace with the learning of their peers. Let me introduce you to Jack. Jack is a 6th grade student. As you can see across the bottom, he's in 6th grade. But over on the left-hand side, you start to see that he's reading on a 4th grade level. All of the typical readers that are in 6th grade in Jack's class are progressing really well with that straight line, that upward trajectory. But Jack, he's down there at that blue circle, and he's progressing only because he's created some coping skills and some mechanisms to do the best that he can. What happens is this learning gap starts to form. Everyone else is at grade level or above grade level, and Jack's still down here reading at a 4th grade level, which separates him further and further from the content that he needs in order to keep pace with his classroom and his peers. We need to do something to close that gap, to bring Jack up to the content rather than bringing the content down to him. And it's not because of his cognitive ability. Jack is a very bright and smart student. It's just that his reading skills are low. So we want to bring Jack up to where his peers are. There are so many students across the country just like Jack. From the National Assessment of Educational Progress, we find that 64% of 4th graders are reading below grade level. And in 8th grade, that jumps to about 66%. In 12th grade, 63%. We need to do something to help Jack and all the students like him across the country be confident and competent learners. That's where human-read audiobooks come in. With Learning Ally, we're able to offer an entire library of human-read audiobooks. Take a look at the screenshot over on the right-hand side. This is Learning Ally's reading app called Link, and one of our voice text titles are displayed. Voice text is when you see the text on the screen and you hear that human-read voice. The yellow highlighting lets you track and follow along. It helps you focus on the content rather than struggling to decode, struggling over each and every word. That focus is because of this multisensory approach to learning. I'm hearing the voice and I'm seeing the words. I'm activating 2 areas of the brain to work together to make meaning out of text. Once I can make meaning, that leads to comprehension. And once I can comprehend what I'm reading, I can really start to visualize, create those mental images in my mind of what's going on. Think about when you read a novel. You really start to create the characters and the setting based on what you've read. And then when you go and watch the movie version, it's completely different than what you thought. That's because in your mind's eye, you've created this scene. You were able to visualize because you understood. Once you visualize, you're able to retain 6 times more of that information that you read. Retaining that information makes me want to run into that classroom every single day because I know the material. I can be a part of that classroom discussion and that classroom culture. Those human-read audiobooks help our students focus, visualize, and retain the information. And in the case of Jack, it's bringing him up to the content because he can do it. The Learning Ally audiobook library has the books your kids want to read and the books your kids have to read. Think about the books your kids want to read. Those are those popular titles that are going to be out at the movies, those series. You hooked me into the first book. I've got to find out what happens to the character in the next book. Fiction, nonfiction, multiple genre. All of these books provide that rich engagement for our students. And then all the books your kids have to read, those textbooks, those assigned reading materials, all of those can be found in our library as well. Let's think about what this does for our students in each of the different grades: elementary, middle school, and high school. In elementary school, we've got students coming in. They're so excited to be at school. They want to be learners. But if I'm a struggling reader, that excitement really starts to weaken. We want to keep kids excited about learning and being engaged in our classrooms. And in elementary school, students are still developing those reading skills. Those human-read audiobooks really model oral reading fluency, and it helps students be able to emulate that fluency as well. Also, it's about building vocabulary and word exposure in elementary. We start to have these students build a belief in their own academic ability. I can do this. Middle school. We want to motivate our students in middle school. Social acceptance becomes so crucial at this age. If I'm a struggling reader, that's really where I tend to be ostracized from the group. But human-read audiobooks can motivate these kids to read what their friends are reading and to build their stamina in reading to get through lots of material. Learning Ally also teaches to help differentiate, help effectively teach grade level curriculum to students with varied and emerging reading skills. Now, with access to the increased rigor of material that everybody is reading in middle school, students can activate and apply higher order thinking rather than struggling over those developing reading skills. They need to be able to infer, predict, and synthesize information. When I can get access to content through Learning Ally, this helps me to build a hope for my future. I can do this high school thing. In high school, we want to heighten the students' ability to keep up with the amount of coursework, heighten their ability to pass their classes. When students get in high school, the rigor of content grows, and also the amount of material and work that I've got to get through grows. I go home at the end of the day and try to get through homework. And if I were trying to decode all of that material, it would take me hours. Human-read audiobooks get me to the content faster, and that's what I need to do in order to keep pace and stay engaged in the classroom. It helps me to participate in class, master content, which increases my confidence as a learner so that I can graduate on time. And we're creating college and career-ready students. The Learning Ally solution includes the following, and there's a key word here that I really want to emphasize, and that's unlimited. You get unlimited year-round access for your eligible students to the Learning Ally library. That means they get access at nights, on weekends, and in the summer. You get unlimited access to 80,000 human-read audiobooks. You also get unlimited access to Learning Ally Link, our reading app, for your iOS devices, PC, Mac, Chromebook, Android devices. Students can be carrying around an entire library of 80,000 books right in their pocket. You can see the app icon for Link in the top right-hand corner. Now let's look at eligibility. There are 4 categories of eligibility: reading accommodation, specific learning disability, other physical disability, and blind or visually impaired. Reading accommodation. These are those students who are not identified with a physical disability, blindness, low vision, or specific learning disability, but they have been evaluated by a competent authority at the school who has determined the student's difficulty with reading is sufficient enough to require an accommodation. The competent authority should conduct student observation, assessments, and a review of the student work. And the student's reading skill deficits must be consistent enough to prohibit accessing standard print at the expected benchmarks for each grade. Specific learning disability. This is most likely where your students will fall that have SLD listed on their IEP or have a diagnosed learning disability. Other physical disability. Those students that have a physical impairment that prevents them from reading standard print, such as the ability to hold a book or turn the pages of a book. And then, of course, blind or visually impaired students as well. Now what we're going to do is go to Link, our reading app, and log in as a student. I'm going to log in as Jack, the student we looked at before, our 6th grader, and look at the books that we have on his bookshelf. As a teacher for Jack, I'm using the Engage New York curriculum. And you'll notice here that I've got the assigned reading materials from that curriculum. Bud, Not Buddy, Dragon Wings, and Frightful Mountains. But I've also got books that I want to read, Jack wants to read. We've got Wonder, The Lightning Thief, Harry Potter, and we've got his textbooks as well. We've got science, math, and history. You'll notice that there's also a place where I can add more books. We want to give Jack the autonomy to go in and take control of his own learning and add those books himself. Search for and discover books. Notice in the top left-hand corner with Bud, Not Buddy, there is a flag that lets me know that I've read that book. And there are some books that I need to download, like my textbooks and like Dragon Wings and Frightful Mountains. Now we're going to look inside one of our books. Let's choose Bud, Not Buddy.
Bud, Not Buddy. Chapter 1. Here we go again. We were all standing in line waiting for breakfast when one of the caseworkers came in and tap, tap, tap down the line. Uh-oh. This meant bad news. Either they'd found a foster home for somebody or somebody was about to get paddled. All the kids watched the woman as she moved along the line, her high-heeled shoes sounding like little firecrackers going off on the wooden floor.
All right, I'm just going to pause that right there and let's discover some of the features that are in Link. Down at the bottom, there is a blue arrow pointing up. And if I click that, you can see all of the great navigation features. You can rewind 30 seconds to allow for rereading a passage. That's a crucial skill for mastering content. Really helpful in those textbooks. Oh, I've got to back up and hear that again. You can rewind a page, play, pause, fast forward a page. All of these features allow me to control my learning. The headphone icon allows me to change the volume and the speed of the reader. The speed of the reader is really crucial to personalize learning for the student. As a student in elementary school, I might need to slow down the pace of the reader because I really want to track and follow along and keep pace. But as a student in high school, I may want to speed the reader up just a little bit because I've got to get through so much content and I've got to get through it faster. So that speed control can be a really beneficial feature. If I'm reading Bud, Not Buddy as one of my assigned reading passages, one of the things that I might be doing is the assignment that my teacher gave me. And that's to analyze character development and consider how figurative language contributes to tone and meaning. So in that passage that we just read, that last sentence really sounded like figurative language to me. All the kids watched the woman as she moved along the line, her high-heeled shoes sounding like little firecrackers going off on the wooden floor. I can go right to that passage and then click the bookmark tab up at the top right-hand corner. I might want to type some notes here. And then click Save.
And as she moved along the line,
I can locate that bookmark by clicking on the blue arrow at the bottom of the page again and going directly to the bookmark tab. I can see that bookmark that I just placed on page 1. You can see that I've got some options here. I can share this bookmark by sending an email or saving it as a file. I can also edit or delete my bookmark. There's other features as well. I can navigate by the table of contents, or I can navigate by page. A really crucial feature when you have assigned reading or in a textbook. Put in page 78 and click go.
I went back to the big fire to sit with.
And it takes me right to page 78. All of these features are really great tools to help with my learning. An additional feature that makes for a seamless learning experience is the app's ability to sync those notes, bookmarks, where you left off across all devices. If you read at school and then access that same book at home on your personal device, the app remembers everything. If I'm going to read Wonder, a book that may not be an assigned title, I might want to open that book and just snuggle down and read it from beginning to end. And that syncing across devices helps me do that in multiple locations. As you can see, there's so many tools within the Learning Ally Link app that helps me read, understand, and master content. Now I want to share with you what teachers get to see when students are reading. Here you'll see a screenshot of the dashboard view in Teacher Ally, our online student management tool. If I'm a middle school teacher and have Jack and other students in my class, I can see their individual reading progress. Jack has 8 books on his bookshelf, but he's only opened one of those books and read 240 pages. I can really start to monitor and engage Jack to say, okay, Jack, do you need help with your assigned reading or some of those textbooks? Mark is making such good progress, as well as Linda and Edward. But Hunter, I might need to talk to Hunter and discover if there's some barriers going on. What can I do to encourage Hunter to help remove some of those barriers? This snapshot can give you a great bird's eye view of the data and the tracking that you get to see within Teacher Ally. Now let's look at some of the impact when students have used Learning Ally. In elementary school, I want you to meet Alyssa. Alyssa is in Denver Public Schools, and at the end of 3rd grade, Alyssa was really struggling. She ranked in the bottom 4th percentile on district reading benchmarks. In 4th grade, she started getting the services, the support, and the interventions that she needed in order to be an effective learner. She got access to Learning Ally and read over 2,000 pages in her 4th grade year. At the end of 4th grade, she ranked in the mid 41st percentile on district reading benchmarks. Alyssa made such extraordinary gains. Ms. Tomlin is a middle school 7th and 8th grade language arts teacher, and this is one of her students. We compared reading scores from the beginning of the year to the semester, and many of my students showed growth. Students are achieving because they're being bridged to content, grade level content. Their fluency is growing, their comprehension is growing, and their confidence as a learner is growing. In high school, let's meet Sky Malik. She's a New York City student, and now she's in college. Sky says, I did not have to worry about trying to keep up with the conversation, but became one of the first students to raise a hand to answer a question. That's the engagement that we were talking about earlier. When I'm a struggling reader, I can't keep up. I don't raise my hand. I become so closed off in my classroom. But once I get access to what everyone around me is reading, I want to be actively involved in learning. At Learning Ally, we not only provide access to human-read audiobooks, we're able to support your schools as well with school and district level implementation and support. We bring in an account management and an engagement team to support you. And we have those data monitoring pieces built into Teacher Ally. We support your teachers with training and teacher resources. And of course, Teacher Ally, that online student management tool. We support your students with reading programs that engage them in reading. We also give them access to that library of books that they want and need. For parents, we offer online resources. I want you to think about those problems that we discussed earlier. And if you implement Learning Ally, will you be able to solve some of those issues? My answer is yes, because with Learning Ally, you're able to break down barriers and bridge access to grade level content for struggling readers. To learn more about Learning Ally, you can contact an education solutions specialist by calling 1-800-221-1098 or email at programs@learningally.org. We also invite you to visit our website at learningally.org/educators. Thank you so much for attending, and we hope to hear from you soon.